Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our special Christmas edition of our Risk and Regulation news channel of PwC. My name is Martin and I will take you back for a review of 2022 and a quick outlook into 2023 when it's coming about risk and regulation topics for credit institutions. The year 2022 was, of course, a year of crisis. First of all, the pandemic, the crisis was going down a little bit, especially in summer and now in the end of the year. It's a little bit out of the focus of the credit institutions and the supervisors. But of course, directly the next crisis appeared, the Ukraine war, the inflation and also the energy crisis, something that keeps the banks and the regulators and supervisors awake in the same way. And it's very difficult to predict how the crisis will develop in 2023 because there are so many uncertainties. But if we look to the scenarios that our clients use for the forecast and also for the capital plans, it's for sure that when we look to the baseline scenarios, the outlook is still quite good and positive. We don't expect too big hits in the balance sheet and in the P&L of the banks. But if we look to the adverse scenarios, they are much more conservative than what we have seen in the past, for example, in the corona pandemic. But of course, there were also a number of normal risk and regulation topics that are relevant for the credit institutions in the EU. First of all, the implementation of Basel IV into European law. We have seen the first draft in 2021 already. Now there were some compromise proposals during 2022, and now in the end of 2022, the European Council agreed on its position on how to implement Basel IV into European law. We don't expect too big changes or no fundamental changes in the trilogue negotiations with the Parliament and with the EU Commissions. But of course, the devil is in the detail, especially when it's about the output floor. We expect some nitty-gritty changes, especially the transition rules and also how the floor will be applied on single entity level, on group level. Everything around mortgages will be still under discussion, specialized lendings. So many topics where there are smaller changes to be expected. But also we should not forget the CRD topics, especially when it comes to the supervision of third country branches and how conservative the supervision will be in the future. It's a highly political topics where also the different EU countries do not 100% agree. Other topics that are relevant for the credit institutions in the EU, one topic that I definitely want to mention is ESG and the integration of ESG in risk management. And here I would like to repeat again that the regulators and the supervisors, the banking supervisors, are focused on only on the integration of ESG criteria into the risk management process, not so much with regard to general ESG topics or sustainable finance, the taxonomy, the non-financial reporting directive. They are all important topics and banks have to deal with it, but it's not so much in the focus of the ECB and the national competent authorities. And when it comes to ESG, one thing or two things that we definitely should mention is, first of all, the climate stress test that was performed by the ECB in 2022, which was kind of okayish. I think both ECB and the banks still have to learn a lot for that the next stress test will be a little bit more consistent and also the results are more usable. And the second topic that I would like to mention with regard to ESG is, of course, the thematic review that the ECB performed. And here I would like to make a citation of Frank Elderson of the ECB. He said when he looked to the report that the glass is still not half full. So there's a lot that banks still have to implement to fulfill all the requirements of the ECB when it comes to the integration of climate risks and environmental risks into the risk management processes. And here I would like also to mention the new deadlines proposed by the ECB until the end of March next year, 2023. There needs to be a materiality assessment of ESG risks. Until the end of 2023, banks have to set up an overall risk management framework for ESG. And last but not least, from the end of 2024 on, there needs to be a quantification of ESG risks incorporated into the general ICAP process. Other topics that should be mentioned when it comes to risk and regulation, of course, the SRB is also active, and there were a number of reassessments regarding to the public interest for some institutions, which means banks go out of the bankruptcy scenario into the resolution scenario, and that means, of course, also that there are a number of additional requirements that the banks have to fulfill. And yeah, we are very excited for the reports that are going to be published by the ECB. First of all, the new priorities of the ECB. We expect them now in December, but we don't expect that there are too big changes compared to the ECB priorities of 2022. Of course, the pandemic will be not so relevant anymore, but of course, Ukraine crisis, energy crisis, and the inflation will become much more important. And the second important publication that we are excited for is, of course, the SREP report. But also here, based on the discussions we had with the ECB and our clients, we don't expect too big changes in the SREP scores. Of course, there might be some individual changes for some banks, but in general, it will stay more or less the same. Yeah, that is already the overview about what was happening in 2022 with regard to risk and regulation, and also the first outlook to 2023. How can we as PwC support you in these topics? Of course, we will keep on investing in our training courses. You maybe know already our CRR III Academy. That is something that we will do also next year. There will be also a Risk and Regulation Roadshow next year. There will be a Brexit Conference here in Frankfurt that we will do, and also an international conference on the impact of IFRS 9, especially highlighting also the recent changes that we have seen in the macroeconomic outlook and the crisis, of course. Yeah, that's it from my side. I would like to use the opportunity and wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and most importantly, please stay healthy. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.